It is negative 63 degrees Fahrenheit in Siberia. Negative 18 degrees Fahrenheit in Canada. Which is colder, Siberia or Canada? I went to IHOP to buy a cup of coffee and it cost me $2. The next day, I went to Starbucks to buy a cup of coffee and it cost me $4. Which cup of coffee left me with the least amount of money in my pocket? Today we're going to talk about integers. Integers are the numbers that come before the zero, which we call negative numbers, and the numbers that come after the zero, which we call positive numbers. An integer is a whole number that can be positive, negative, or zero. So either way on the number line. A whole number is like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. But numbers like 1/2 or 1.1 or 3.5, they're not whole numbers. They're parts of a number. Is 17 an integer? Think about it. Is 17 a whole number? Or is it part of a number like a half or a 3/4? Yes, 17 is an integer. What about 1/2? Is that an integer? No, 1/2 isn't an integer. That's part of a number. What about 519? Is that an integer? Yes, 519 is an integer. It's a whole number. It's not part of a number like 1/2 or 3/4 or 519 and 3/4 or 519 and 1.75. It is a whole number. It does not have any parts to it or halves or point anything to it. It's not a decimal. It's not a fraction. It's a whole number. What about 4.8? Is that an integer? No. This 4.8 is a decimal number. It is not an integer. What about 92? Is 92 an integer? Yes, 92 is an integer. It is a whole number. It doesn't have a fraction part. It doesn't have a decimal part. It is a whole number. All right, tell me the answers. The numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are called what? They're called whole numbers. A whole number that can be positive, negative, or zero. What do we call that? Integer. A thermometer has integers. Water freezes right here at 0 degrees Celsius. 0 is neither positive nor negative. But the temperature can go down below the 0 degrees Celsius. Anything down here, those are the negative numbers. Anything below 0 is negative. In Alaska, it's regularly negative 40 degrees Celsius in the wintertime, and that is very cold. Those are negative integers. Integers can be represented on a number line. On a number line, the positive numbers are to the right of the 0. This way. These are positive numbers. This is what we've been working with so far in school. Integers consist of negative integers, 0, and positive integers. 0 is an integer, but it is neither positive nor negative. Negative numbers have a negative sign before them. These are the negative numbers. These are positive numbers. Negative 3 is read as negative 3. Positive 6 is read as positive 6 or just plain 06. Okay, let's see if we remember this. The numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and so on are called what? Whole numbers. A whole number that can be positive, negative, or 0 is called what? Integer. The opposite of 4 is negative 4. The opposite of 6 is 6. Since 0 is neither positive nor negative, the opposite of 0 is also 0. So if we look at that number line, we can see that 1, the positive 1, comes here on the number line. So its opposite would be negative 1. Here's 2. Its opposite is negative 2. 3, its opposite is negative 3. 4, its opposite is negative 4. If asked for the opposite of a number, just change the sign. The examples are, if you have a 7, its opposite is negative 7. If you have negative 17, its opposite is 17. Two numbers are opposite if on the number line they are the same distance from 0, but they're on the different sides of the 0. Which integer is the opposite of 6? Negative 6. Which integer is the opposite of negative 17? Positive 17. Which integer is the opposite of 762? Negative 762. The numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on in the number line is called what? Whole numbers. A whole number that can be positive, negative, or 0. Integers. Numbers are the same distance from 0, but are on the opposite sides of 0. Opposite numbers. An integer on the horizontal number line is greater than the number on the left and less than the number on the right. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So here's our number line. Anything on the right is larger or bigger than anything on the left. If we were talking about money and pennies, which would you rather have? 1 penny, 2 pennies, 3 pennies, or 4 pennies? Which is the most pennies? 4 is the largest number of pennies, and that's also the largest number. Now let's think about negative numbers. Negative 1 would be you have 1 less than 0, or you owe 1 penny to me. And negative 2 is like you owe 2 pennies to me. And negative 3 is you owe 3 pennies to me. And negative 4 is you owe 4 pennies to me. So the smallest number in the positive and the negative integers is the smallest number is negative 4. That's because you owe that much more. That's the least amount. You owe that much more. So that makes it the smallest number. If negative 1 is greater than negative 2 and less than 0, we also can write it as negative 1 is greater than -2 and -1 is less than 0. Recall that this sign right here means greater than, and this sign means less than. Which is greater, -2 or -6? Let's look at the number line below to help us. Here's -2, and here is -6. The further we go this way to the left on the number line, the smaller the number. So -2 and -6 will make -2 the greater number. Which is greater, -7 or -3? Which is greater, -7 or -3? -3 is closer to the 0 on the number line. It's closer this way for negative numbers, so -3 is the larger number. Which is greater, 2 or -8? The 2 is larger. It's more to the right of the number line. Which is greater, -9 or 3? The 3 is closer to the right of the number line, so it's greater. The numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on the number line is called what? Whole numbers. A whole number that can be positive, negative, or 0? Integer. Numbers that are the same distance from 0 but on different sides of the 0. Opposite numbers. So remember those questions that we started with? It is -63 degrees Fahrenheit in Siberia. It is -18 degrees Fahrenheit in Canada. Which is colder, Siberia or Canada? Well, let's look at the number line. Remember, we start at 0 and then we count backwards. Our 2 points are -18 and -63. Which one is further from the 0? That would be -63. That means that is the coldest temperature. Siberia wins. It's the coldest temperature. I went to IHOP to buy a cup of coffee and it cost $2. The next day I went to Starbucks to buy a cup of coffee and it cost me $4. Which cup of coffee left me with the least amount of money in my wallet? Meaning which one did I have to pay more for? So we have -2 and -4. This -4 is further from the 0, so that's the least amount. But that would cost me the most from my money because I'm having to pay -4. I'm having to pay, that's what the negative is, $4 instead of having to pay $2. That's going to leave me the least amount of money in my wallet.